Hi, my name is Faron Melton.
And I'm Lisa Martin, and we are two longtime friends and peers. We both led global and procurement supply ecosystems at blue chip companies, many of them, navigated mergers, built best in class teams, and uniquely did it as best friends, confidants, and professional equals. It's been a blessing. Today, we're here to talk about great bosses, horrible bosses, and how those experiences shaped our leadership style and our relationships. So Farryn, why don't you tell us a little bit about your career?
So I'm a recently retired Chief Procurement Officer for the last 25 years, and I retired in June 2023 from Bristol Squibb, but have been a CPO for many Fortune 100 companies over the last 20 to 30 years. And now I do board work and some strategic consulting, and I have a nonprofit that I'm running, so I'm partially retired. But I've been in corporate America for such a long time that I'm pleased to be here today to be able to talk about our leadership journey, and particularly about what is a great boss, what's a horrible boss, and how do you learn the best from both of them.
Excellent. And for myself, I'm still a working CPO. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer at GSK, a global biopharmaceutical company headquartered in London. And GSK is my third pharmaceutical company. I loved the pharmaceutical and healthcare sector. Both Farryn and I worked together in entertainment I worked in entertainment for nearly 2 decades before going to the kinder, gentler planet of pharmaceuticals. And I loved it so much that I've never left.
Absolutely.
And it's an honor and a privilege to be able to impact the lives and the quality of life of so many people around the globe.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about bosses and leaders that have empowered us and inspired us, and leaders that maybe weren't so inspiring. And we're going to tell some stories, and we're going to share those. So I'm going to start out by asking you, Lisa, can you share an example? Want to start with bad or good?
Let's start with bad.
Let's start with bad. So give me an example and tell me the story about just a horrible boss situation that you had to manage through, and how you did it and what you learned from that.
So in my very first job post-university, I worked for a post-production facility, and I worked for the head of engineering. He was a very, very super bright guy, but I learned from him how not to treat any supplier. And I was a very young procurement professional at the time. It was actually my very first exposure to purchasing. And I quickly learned, because he had this terrible habit of, and these days we didn't have computers yet, so he used to communicate with people through phone. But he would call up, let's say, the CEO or chairman of a very large supplier of ours, scream his head off, and slam the phone down. And people never wanted to talk to him. So trying to counterbalance him, I approached the same individual with empathy, with a little bit more fairness, and I got so much further in both, whether it was a commercial negotiation or bettering the relationship. I quickly learned that it's good to be tough, but it's more important to be fair.
Oh, that's a great story. I have one too, and it's probably the same industry that we're talking about, the entertainment industry, which was fun and exciting to be in for the short period of time that I was. I was pretty young still in my career, and I'd never really had a horrible boss before, so they'd always been good, or at least average, but I've never run into a really mean, incapable person before, and this is somebody that took over the organization that I reported into. And this gentleman was so mean, I guess is like the word, that what he would do is call meetings before the office opened up, before we began. So we'd start work at 9. So in entertainment, you work from 9 to 6. And he would start meetings at 8:15 or 8:30 and have his staff meetings there. And if you didn't show up on time, he would shut the door and lock it. And he would have him in his office. And then people would come in a little bit late, and they would have to knock on the door, and he wouldn't let anybody answer it. And just said, nope, don't get up, don't let him answer it. And then he'd finally let them in. And then he'd look around the room. Now, think of the leaders that are in some of our countries today, right? If anybody doesn't want to be on my team, don't show up to my meetings on time. That's what he would say. So just a really mean person. And when when Lisa left, I was by myself there, and they thought of me as Lisa's person. And so he didn't like me, and so I had to find a way to be successful with him. And I was so successful that he ended up thinking that we were friends, and he, instead of having me work, he would have me go out and pick furniture out with him and take me shopping. So that was the strangest, most horrible boss situation that I have had. And I left as soon as I possibly could. And so that's my example of the horrible boss.
Yeah, luckily I lost that job and this guy got it. So that organization went through a big change working for me versus working for him.
Night and day. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the only other, I would say, it wouldn't be horrible. The horrible experience I had with a boss was a boss who was just incompetent. He wasn't mean. He wasn't malicious, but he was just wholly incompetent. And he made one bad decision after another, which drove me crazy. And several of them, I really did my best to talk him out of it, to reverse the decision. One of them, which we can, it's from that same company, he decided that a good cost-cutting move was to remove, at that time, in entertainment, you're dealing with a lot of talent, very creative talent, creative people, both in front of the camera, behind the camera, right? And he made this great decision that a great way to save some money was to take all the food, the free food, and he left the coffee and the tea, but he took all the goodies out of the pantry. And I warned him in advance. I said, if you do that, it's going to be on the front page of the trade magazines that everybody in that sector ran. And it's going to make our company look stupid. And he did it anyway, and sure enough, we were on the front cover the next day. Cost cuts so desperate at, I won't say the name of the company. So, working for somebody that's incompetent when they're hurting the company, it's not that they're a horrible boss, but it's a very frustrating experience when your value system is different. You know that the decisions they're making are wrong.
Yeah. And I'd say it's also tough when you have a really good leadership and leadership style, and then somebody moves on and another person comes in that has the exact opposite or a very different leadership style. It's hard to adjust because you know what good looks like. So I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to tell a story too, about what does a great boss look like to you? What's your experience? How have they empowered you? And why would you call them a great boss? And what did you learn?
I think for me, and there's two great bosses that I can think of in my career, and they were very different personalities. So it's very interesting when I think about this, because they had very different styles and very different approaches. One was, and I think he still to this day was my best boss. He challenged me, not in a bad way, in a really positive, supportive way. And I really felt that my years with him, I grew the most professionally, and it was fun. He always made it fun. Like, we had very tough things that we dealt with, but we always laughed. It was just not always serious and heads down. And I think that was the best. And then the other best boss that I had, who I adore both of these people. He just was the most personable, took an incredible interest in you as a full human being, a holistic person. When I had my first grandchild, I think he was the second person to call me to congratulate me. When my mom, unfortunately I lost my mom a few years ago, and when she was going through a lot of health crises, most supportive. I would be in London and my mom was in LA, and I would have to get on a plane and fly, and even twice I missed one meeting with our CEO, one meeting with our CFO, and he had my back 1,000, as they did. In our company culture, that would have never been held against me, but you still feel unsettled about that. And he was always there for me, even after he's left the company. He stays in touch. He's just the warmest, nicest guy. And I think when I reflect on it, he always gave me space to be, like, I ran procurement, and even though I reported to him, he never micromanaged me in any way. But if I ever needed anything, if I texted him, he would be calling me within 5 minutes. So he was responsive, supportive, but also let me be me and do my thing. and just was there when I needed him.
Yeah, I love that. I have two stories as well. And one was before I became a CPO, and the other was after I became the boss, right? So when I was still younger in my career, my very first greatest boss is now my best friend and confidant for many years. And you are the one who first showed me what it was like to be a good leader. And the way that you did it, like, you so empowered me. I remember I was so new to entertainment. I was faking my way through so much of this. And they would say, oh, you understand all this technology and all this lingo, and I really didn't, but I pretended that I did. And so what Lisa would do is she'd bring me to a meeting with the stakeholders, and she'd be with me for in those meetings, and I'd watch how she interacted and with all the business partners. And then slowly but surely she'd back away from the table and I'd be the only one sitting there. And I thought that was such a great way to bring someone in to the conversation and to empower them. She also ran her leadership team like a team, an integrated team. And I've never seen that before. So I took that and ran with that for the rest of my career, where I've always been an inclusive leadership. I've had a leadership team that we were friends, got along great, we had each other's backs, we always worked hard. But I learned that being the kind of leader that creates an environment that's for their team is so important, almost like family, but working family. So that's something I took with me throughout my whole career, and I think it's what made me successful, right? And then after I became a CPO, the greatest boss was the one that did like yours, right? He supported me, and he would give me great advice, but he let me do my thing. And when a difficult decision came up, because in procurement with what we do, sometimes we have to give out not so good news. We have to drive something in a way that maybe isn't what somebody wants personally to do, but it's right for the business. And so I would go to him and bring him this challenge, and he would say, Farryn, you're an executive at this company. Some decisions are hard, but you've got to make them, and I'll support you in it. And I thought that was a really good way of making me feel like I was an equal, not subservient, but I was equal, and that I had ideas, and that if I had a position on something as the chief procurement officer, it was important for me to be able to share my views. And I thought that was a really winning strategy, and a very kind person, a warm person as well, but so smart, and the EQ that he had and that he taught me was just amazing. So.
Yeah, I think the good thing is you learn a lot from both great bosses and horrible bosses.
I think what you learn from great bosses is obvious, right? But what you learn from horrible bosses is what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
What not to do, because you know how you feel when you're treated that way. But the other thing it teaches you is resiliency and how to work around and work through.
Just to survive it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, what the harder thing is, I don't have to really like somebody to get to work with them, but if you don't respect them, it's very hard. That's the game changer for me, is when you really can't respect an individual for, wholly, it's very, very difficult to stay.
Yeah. And then the one thing we also wanted to talk about a little bit was our friendship and our partnership that we've had throughout the years, because we've worked together we've known each other since before my kids were born. So 1994, I think, is when we met. 1994, and we've been together and worked together ever since. And both of us, Lisa was already a chief procurement officer, but I became one eventually too. And we had a great mutual respect for each other, where we would support each other professionally and personally, and how we could curate talent without stealing each other's talent. And we had a very, very good way of working together that was in the best interest of both our companies and our people. If we really thought somebody needed to develop and grow, then let them go to this other job, even if it was at each other's company. But we always made sure that we were very respectful, and we supported each other in and out of the room. And it's just a unique relationship.
Yeah, I think more CPOs should do that, to be honest. We have a community that mostly respects those rules, but it really is better for people if the leaders will work together to develop people, right? And there's lots of curriculum activities we get engaged with where we see each other's people, in action. Mm-hmm. And so we can also share our opinions and give, we all have our blinders on when it comes to people, right? So, we've helped each other like that a lot. And then, it was great that Farryn became a mom after I was a mom. So we always supported each other in our family journeys. When we had to fight our way up
Yes.
bit for, in procurement, it isn't like it is now. Like 30 years ago, you really had to fight to have your seat at the table. And then if you throw on, that's on your shoulders as the leader,
Yeah.
then you throw on being a new mom, and you throw on
a woman.
a woman and your family.
Yeah.
If you don't have a support network like that, it's really hard. So it was really a blessing that we had each other through all of that, and now we're grandmas. We're both grandmas now, and so we love to talk about our grandchildren. That's our greatest joy, both of us. And it's just amazing. Like, for me, it's been an incredible journey with Farryn, because to have somebody who's your best friend but also has the same job as you did, and I'm so proud of her, right? She became a CPO in her own right, and many of our people that work for both of us have gone on to become chief procurement officers, which for me is like, when people ask me about legacy, I never thought about it. But when I do think about it, it's the amount of people that I've been able to help them become their best self, to create wealth and opportunity for their family, to have different cultural experiences by moving to different parts of the world. I mean, it's such an honor. It truly is an honor to be able to do that.
It really is. And I think respecting the brand of leadership that Lisa introduced me to has really helped me to be successful throughout my career. And I have, we call it followership, right?
Yes.
So if you have people that have worked for you at multiple companies and enjoy working for you, that is really success for me. And I have several of my team who are now chief procurement officers at other companies, and I'm so proud of them, and we still stay in touch. We still actually, even though everyone works at different companies, we still have a group chat where we all talk to each other, and I think that's the hallmark of a successful leader, is you have that lifelong followership.
I say people leave, but they don't really leave my tree trunk. They're on a branch. And I think it's fantastic when you have that satisfaction. I mean, I think when I do retire from corporate life and follow Farryn into semi-retirement, not full, she's kind of kidding, because I think her busy schedule is not really retirement, which will be like me too. But I want to make sure that I keep in touch with my tree trunk, right? Like the branches of your tree. You want people to still be successful, still grow.
Yes.
And that's the most satisfying thing. I don't want to sound flippant about it. I would never disparage the value I've created for the great companies that I've worked for, but the people development and how I've seen people grow and develop. And hopefully people think we're one of those great bosses and not horrible.
I know. Could you imagine if somebody was sitting here talking about us one day? My horrible boss story. No, but we have, and I still, even though I'm retired, I still try to help people. I give them references all the time. I have recruiters that'll call me.
We help
or
each
Lisa.
other when the recruiters call us, and we're like, okay,
we put our
heads together. Who could go do that job?
Yeah.
We believe in paying it forward, don't we?
Definitely. So if you were going to say, like, just as we close here, what kind of advice would you give someone who's a little bit earlier in their career in terms of developing and identifying their own leadership style?
Yeah. Well, I say, first of all, be yourself, because if you try to be something that you're not, it doesn't work, and people smell you out. If you're not authentic, it doesn't last long, and it's harder and stressful on you. So bring your natural self. Like, I'm an extrovert, not everybody's an extrovert. You can be a fantastic boss and be an introvert. So you got to be yourself. And then the second thing is, no matter what type of personality you are, you've got to make yourself a bit vulnerable to your team and build trust. If you've got trust in an integrated team, you could do anything together. But once trust gets broken, it's very hard to fix it. So, and the other thing is, I have always intentionally hired people that are smarter than me. And I know, like, when you're younger in your career, I mean, I would pick every fight when I was younger, right? I wasn't selective enough about the fights, and you know that about me. You saw that growth in me. So I think I learned through the years, I know my strengths and weaknesses. I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I'm not as analytical maybe as I should be. So many of the people that I hire are much more analytical than I am, because they'll balance me out. And that's a blessing, to be able to be humble enough to know that. And earlier in my career, so I think if you're a younger leader coming up, really do whatever it takes, and there's kind of insights you can do, or Briggs-Myers, whatever it is. Learn about yourself first, so you know your strengths and your weaknesses, and then intentionally build where you're weak, build people around you that are strong, and give them the credit for it. recognize them for
One
it.
of the things you used to say all the time to me is to have power, you have to give it away.
Right.
Yeah, giving away power is the best way to have it. And the only thing I would add, I agree with everything that you just said. The thing I would add to that is I'm an extrovert. I'm very passionate, and so you know what your own strengths are, but those strengths overused are also weaknesses.
Yes.
So you have to, at least in your own heart and to yourself, be honest about where you need to make changes and make those. So stop doing something that you know is not good for your team, it's not good for you, and be critical of yourself enough and honest enough with yourself to say, I'm going to stop doing that. And there's several things that I've done over the years to say, that's just not working for me anymore, and I'm not going to do it. Right? I'm not going to do it. And I think that's what I would say is to curate yourself, find the thing that you love and emulate that, and the things that you don't like, just drop that habit because it's not working for you.
And be intentional about it, right?
Yeah.
Be intentional.
Yes.
And
exactly.
don't hold meetings before people can get into the office and hold that against them to what your bad boss did.
Yeah.
Especially with people have all kinds of things on their plate. They have aging parents, they have
children,
they have partners, they have pets, they have,
right.
Like in this day and age, I just think giving people support and flexibility in their lives, is so important to create that thriving culture where people can be their best, right?
I definitely agree.
And the best thing is, it's a very small world. So, you need to treat others as you want to be treated. I mean, it's a very simple, what do they call it, moral? It's a simple something, value. But that's the biggest thing. And that's why my greatest fun that I have is when I travel around to different geographies and I get to meet with people at all levels of the organization and just pull them in a room and have a chat and talk about what's going on in the company. I learn more from those little chats than I ever do from a survey, right? Because people tend to just open up and be themselves, talk to you about what they're really feeling, and then that's where I've learned about some changes I should make. Even in some of the tactical things that we ask people to do that you don't realize at a senior level, how onerous it is for them.
That's a great point. We don't realize the ripple effect that we have. We might ask a question and the answer is not there, so somebody will create weeks of work to answer the question for you. So you have to know your power and know the power of your voice and what you ask for and make sure that you're being practical.
Yeah, I'm still not sure I'm perfect at that. But yes, because I have bosses that do that to me, right? And it's like the fad du jour and it spins.
Yeah, there's a lot of spin there. So, just be the best leader that you can and be honest with yourself. And make sure that you are also being authentic. And I think that's important. And I've had the pleasure, and it's an honor to be your friend.
Yes.
We're kindred spirits.
Yes.
We have an enduring friendship and an enduring relationship. And I hope that, you find that person and those people in your leadership teams as well. And, hang on to those. Don't let those go.
And even if they go, don't let them go in your life. You can let them go in your company, but keep them in your life.
So we only worked together for 6 years.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
Because it was 4 at Sony and 2 or 3 at Pfizer.
It feels like a lifetime.
I know, but that's because we stayed together and we stayed friends. So I think that's the key.
We've helped each other out too. Right, when Farryn was, we told the story at the breakfast, but you just have to be there for people.
Thank you very much for your time. It was great having this podcast with you.
Yes.
I hope that it was helpful to the audience. Thank you
go
very much.
DPW. Have a great conference.
Great conference.